This is paper 1, June 2011. Question 1. The diagram shows a garden in the shape of a trapezium. Calculate the area of the garden. So the formula for the trapezium is one of the ones that's given to you on the formula sheet. It is there. So you do A add B first, and A and B are your parallel sides. So you add those together, and then the h at the end means times by the height, and then half it. So I've just copied down the formula here. So A add B first, add the parallel sides first. So 8 add 10 gets you 18. Then you could do 18 times 7 and then half it. But because this is without a calculator, it would probably be easier to half the 18 first to get 9, and then times by the 7 to get 63. It doesn't matter which way round you do it at the end, but without a calculator it's going to be easier if you half the 18 first rather than doing 18 times 7. Question 2. Expand the bracket. You just do C multiplied by C gets you C squared, and then C multiplied by 3 gets you 3C. So expand means make it bigger by multiplying. Part B, factorise, means the reverse of expand. It means put it back into brackets, and you need to put out in front the factors. That's why it's called factorise. So the factors are everything that goes into this, or everything you can divide it by. So 3 and 12, they're both in your 3 times table. So 3 is the factor of these two numbers. So the 3 out in front, and then you kind of work backwards. So you go 3 times what gets you 3D. So 3 times D gets you 3D, and then 3 times what gets you 12. 3 times the 4 would get you the 12. So factorise is the reverse of expanding brackets, and it's called factorise because you put the factors out in front. Everything you can divide it by goes out in front. Number 3, in the diagram AB is parallel to CD. Work out the value of X. So we're looking at this bit here, and 2x, x and 105 make a straight line there. They make a 180 straight line. So if you do 180, take off the 105, that will leave you with 75 for the 2x and the x. So that's 3 x's altogether there. So then you would need to divide by 3 to work out what each x is. So dividing by 3 would get you 25. So that means that x would be 25. The 2x there would be 50. So then 50 and 25 is 75. Add on the 105 does total back up to 180 again, just to check. Part B, work out the value of y and give a reason for your answer. So for this one, you can use the alternate Z shape using the parallel line there and there for the top and bottom of the Z. The top and bottom of the Z have to go on the parallel lines, otherwise it won't work. And then if you join them up like that, you can see that that y is alternate to the 2x. So that means that I've already written down there what 2x is. So down here just wrote down that y is equal to 2x. So 2 times 25 will get you 50, and then stated that the reason is because they are alternate angles. I used the Z shape. So y is the same as 2x. Number 4, the heights of players in a school basketball squad in centimetres are, and then they give you, I think there's 10 of them there. Complete an ordered stem and leaf diagram to represent this data, and remember to complete the key. Sometimes they give you a few lines here just if you want to write the numbers out in order first. I would advise you to use this because there's loads of times where people go down here and they mess it up. They've left a number out or something like that, and then they have to start scribbling it out. So use these lines whenever they're giving them to you. So I've just put them in order, the numbers that are in the 170s first, then the numbers in the 180s, and then the numbers in the 190s. And I would always count at the end that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just to check that you haven't left any out. Then you have to actually put this in the stem and leaf diagram. So the numbers in the 170s go in here, and the 1 and the 7's there. So that 7 means 177. that 9 means 179, then 181, 184, 186, 186, 187, and so on. It had said up there, remember to complete the key. So you just pick any of these numbers. I picked 184 and said that an 18 in the stem, and then you have the wee line, and then a 4 in the leaf represents 184. Because in some questions it could mean 18.4. Then part B, write down the median height. So the median is whenever you put them in order and get the one in the middle. You could go and stroke out from the stem and leaf diagram, but you need to be thinking that you're getting 3 marks here for drawing it out, so you're not really going to want to go and start stroking things out in case you scribble it out so badly that the person marking it can't tell what's what. So you should have plenty of time in the exam, so take the time and just write the numbers out again. So there's the 177, 179, 181, and so on. Then stroke them out, one from each end, until you see what you've got in the middle. Because there were 10 here, you actually end up with 2 in the middle. So 4 on that side, 4 on that side, and 2 in the middle. And they're both 186, which means that you would be going between 186 and 186 to get your median. And in between 186 and 186 is just 186. So that's your answer. Another player of height 188 joins the squad. Explain why the median height will not change. Because there's 2 186s, the median will just move to be in the second 186 rather than being in between them. So all you're doing is adding 188 in there. So if that person goes in there or down in here, all it'll mean is that whenever you're stroking them out like that and that and that, you would have another 188 there to go with that one, and then those 2 would be the next 2, and the median would then just become that 186 instead of being in between. So there's different ways to explain that there, but you need to have mentioned something about there being 2 186s. Number 5, use approximations to estimate the value of this big calculation. So 2 important words there, approximations and estimate. They both kind of mean the same thing. It means that you don't use the numbers as they are, you round the numbers first and then do the calculation. So if the number is like this, if it's just in the units, you round to the nearest unit. So 5.87 gets rounded up to 6. This number here, 101.7, it's in the hundreds, so you round it to the nearest 100, so it gets rounded to 100. And the 1.96, again, the important number there is the units, so you round it to the nearest unit, so it goes up to being 2. What you're actually doing there is rounding to one significant figure, but it's easier if you just think if it's in the units, round to the nearest unit, if it's in the tens, round to the nearest 10, and if it's in the hundreds, round to the nearest hundreds. So now that you've done all the rounding, you can now actually work out the sum. So 6 multiplied by, and then the square root of 100 is 10. So 6 multiplied by 10 on the top will get you 60. 2 squared on the bottom means 2 times 2 to get you 4. And then 60 on the top and 4 on the bottom, that line means divide. So 60 divided by 4 would get you 15. There's 3 marks for that. You get a mark just for rounding all of your numbers, and then the other couple of marks are for actually doing the sum. So watch out for those words, approximate and estimate. It means that you don't actually have to use those numbers that are there. That would be a nightmare trying to do that without your calculator. That's why they say estimate it, you're just doing a guess. Number 6, Lewis is buying a caravan. The cash price is £8,000. He buys it on credit in the following way. So a deposit of 15% of the cash price. So that means that he makes a down payment of 15% of the £8,000 because that's your cash price. And then after that there's 24 monthly instalments. So he's paying this off over 2 years at £350 a month. Show that the total credit price of the caravan is £9,600. So it's good there in a way, they're giving you a number to work towards. So you'll know at the end whether you're right or not. So 15% of £8,000. Without your calculator, I would find 10% first. 10% is just 1/10 of 100%. And to find a tenth, you divide by 10. So take that naught off. So 10% is 800. We're trying to get 15%, so we need another 5%. To go from 10% to 5%, you half it, because 5 is half of 10, so half the 800 to get 400. And then 15% comes from adding those two together. So add the 800 and the 400 together will get you 1200 or 1200. So that's the 15% that he pays at the start. That's his deposit. And then after that, there's 24 monthly payments of £350. So you need to work out what they are, which means you're going to have to do long multiplication. I've left this bit blank just to fill in because I know sometimes people aren't very good with this, so I'll show you how to do it. So you start off by multiplying this by 4. So you do 4 noughts or nothing, 4 fives or 20, 4 threes or 12, and then you add that 2 on, which would bring you up to 14. Then before you multiply by the 2, that 2 is really 20, so you would multiply by 10 first, which means you would need to add in a nought, and then you multiply by the 2. So 2 times naught gets you nothing, 2 times 5 gets you 10, and then 2 times 3 gets you 6, plus the 1 will get you the 7. And then you add those up. You have to remember this magic naught here whenever you're multiplying by your second number. So naught add naught gets you nothing, naught and naught, nothing, 4 and naught, 4, 1 and 7, 8. And then the total credit price comes from adding those two together. So you just need to show at the end then that the £1,200 plus on the £8,400 is where their 9,600 is coming from. So 3 marks there, there's pretty much just a mark for each bit. Part B, Lewis pays 1,600 extra buying the caravan on credit. What is 1,600 as a percentage of 8,000? So they're wanting to know really what percentage did he have to pay extra because he bought it on credit rather than buying it outright at the start. So 1,600 as a fraction of 8,000 would look like that if you just do one over the other. And then to turn that into a percentage, you're aiming to get it out of 100. So I took the noughts off here first, which would get it out of 800, and then just go from 800 to 100 by dividing by 8. So then the top number, 160 divided by 8, if you ignore the naught on the end there for a wee minute and do 16 divided by 8, just gets you 2, and then put the naught back on again. So that's 20 out of 100, that's 20%. There are different ways that you can do it. You don't have to divide by 8, but what you're aiming to get is 100 on the bottom. And no matter what way you do it, you should still get it to work out at 20%. Number 7. This triangle is equilateral, so that's important. So equilateral means that all 3 sides are the same, but the problem with this one is that they haven't just numbered the sides, they've used algebra. So that and that and that are all actually worth the same number. And you're asked to work out the value of x. So since it's equilateral, you can put either that side equal to that one, that to that, or that to that, and it doesn't make any difference at all which one you do. I did those two. So I put those two equal to each other and then just solved it the way you normally solve equations whenever there's letters on both sides, by getting all the letters onto the first side and all the numbers onto the second side. So I moved the minus x over here and added it on so that it was over here with this other x, and then I've moved the plus 4 over and taken it off. Remember, whenever you change sides, you change signs, so that's why the minus x turned into a plus x and the plus 4 turned into a minus 4. So I'm left with 2x equals, and then 14 take away 4 is 10. So if 2x is 10, that means x has to be equal to 5, because that just means 2 times what gets you 10. So 2 5s get you 10, x is 5. You could do it the other way that I was talking about there at the start by putting those two equal or those two equal. You would end up with the same answer, that x is equal to 5. Then it says hence or otherwise. That just means you can use your last answer if you want, but you don't have to. Work out the perimeter of the triangle. So the perimeter is the total distance around the outside, which means that we would need to work out what each of the sides are. So x plus 4 would be 5 plus 4, so that would be 9. You could at that stage just do 9 plus 9 plus 9 and go straight to the 27. I just worked it out for each side just to check that the 5 was actually working, that all the sides did work out to be the same. So I did 14 take away 5 to get me 9, and then I did 2 times 5 take away 1, which also gets me 9, and then the perimeter around the outside, 3 9s added together gets you 27. Right, number 8, triangles T and W are drawn on the grid, and you're asked to draw the image of T, so this one here, after a 90-degree anti-clockwise rotation about the point 01. So rotation, you would need to use a bit of tracing paper for it. You're allowed it in the exam, you just need to make sure you ask for it. So we are spinning the shape around anti-clockwise, so going backwards. 90 degrees is a quarter turn, and about 01 means that's where you hold the tracing paper. So 01 is there. So the 0 means you don't go across any, and then you just go up 1. So we're going to be tracing out them, the triangle, and then mark on where the centre of rotation is. I would always put an arrow up from the centre because it's easier for you to watch the arrow spinning round rather than the shape. So you hold the tracing paper down then at that centre and spin it 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So watch for the arrow turning through a quarter turn. So there's a 90-degree turn there. And then you can see where the triangle ends up. You could draw heavily over the top of that, but it'll be quite hard for it to come through because you're not turning the tracing paper over. So you definitely do not turn the tracing paper over. That means that you're starting to reflect the shape. This is just rotation. So just have a look and see where it goes. So it's between 2 and 5 there. So then after that you would just move the tracing paper away, see where the triangle is going roughly, and then get your ruler, or again, I have no ruler, so get your ruler or something straight and rule the triangle out properly. Sometimes it's hard to see the pencil mark on this graph paper, so just keep going over it until you can actually see it, but make sure you do it in pencil so that you can fix it. So that's the new triangle. So that one there has been spun round 90 degrees anti-clockwise, and we held the tracing paper down at that point. The next bit then, describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle T onto triangle W. So with your transformations you've got 4 different types that kind of spell out the name Terry. So you've got, I start with an F, that's a good start. So T is for translation. That's whenever you just move it left, right, up, down. Then there's E, which is enlargement, which is when it's got bigger or smaller. The R is rotation, which is what we just did. And then there's another R, there's reflection as well. And then it nearly spells out the name Terry, apart from you're just missing a Y at the end. So we're trying to get from T onto W then. So it's definitely not enlargement because it hasn't got any bigger. And it's not translation because it's not sitting up the same way. So it's either rotation or reflection. Chances are, because they just asked you to do a rotation, there's a good chance this isn't rotation. It does look a wee bit like it though, so you could check with the tracing paper again and try holding it down. I'm just going to hold it down at the origin there at 0, 0 and spin it round and see if I get anywhere near it. No, it's ending up being back to front, so it's definitely not, even if I moved it over a wee bit there. It's not facing the right direction, no matter where you hold it down. So even holding it, no, that's making it even worse. If I was holding it there, maybe. No, that's making it even worse. There. No. No, so you can see no matter where I'm holding it down there, it's ending up that it's back to front. It's not sitting the right way. So that means it's definitely not a rotation. So the last option then is reflection. So this is actually, it's quite an awkward reflection. So T onto W. So trace out T again. You can use your tracing paper for reflection as well. So you're trying to work out where you would fold it over so that one triangle would land on top of the other. So if you go, well, there's a vertical one first of all. No, that's not right. It's going up there. A horizontal one. No, it's going down there somewhere. So it has to be a slanty one. So your slanty ones, they could be there. It's going to be completely wrong. It's going to just be on top of itself. So the other slanty one is going slanty like that. So if we fold it, it's not folding so well. Yeah, that's working there. You can just about see the triangle has landed on top. So that slanty line going diagonally like that, you need to know the proper name for that line. So this line going through 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 and so on. The special name for that line is y equals minus x, and that's because the y coordinate and x coordinate, they're the same, but one of them's negative. Like that point there is 1 minus 1, this one is 2 minus 2. I'm saying those back to front. That one's minus 1, 1, that one's minus 2, 2, that one's minus 3, 3, and so on. The number stays the same, but just one's positive and one's negative. So you need to learn the proper name for that line. So that's a reflection in the line y equals minus x. There's 2 marks there. If you just say reflection, you'll only get 1 mark. And if you draw in the line, even if you draw it in, you'll still only get 1 mark. You need to say the proper name for it. That's the bit that's getting you a mark. Number 9, simplify this. The base is the same there. They're both the letter m. So whenever you're simplifying something like that, you just add the powers. So 6 plus 4 would get you a total of 10 for your power. Then this one, simplify again. That line means divide. And whenever you're dividing and the base is the same, so they're both h, you just subtract the powers. So 10 take away 4 would get you a power of 8. Right, number 10, I've left blank to fill in as I'm doing it. So, Ruth, Sally and Jenny, so there's Ruth, Sally, Jenny, share £500 between them. So their amount of money totals up to £500. Jenny receives the smallest amount of 120. Her name was last in the question, so I've put the 120 down there beside her name. And then it starts talking about ratio, but it doesn't give you the ratio for Ruth, Sally and Jenny. The ratio that it gives you is for Sally and Jenny's share is 4 to 3. So here I've got Sally first, then Jenny, 4 to 3. So Sally gets more than Jenny. Sally gets 4 money bags and Jenny only gets 3. What they're wanting you to work out is the ratio for the other 2 people, for Ruth and Sally. So these 2 people here. So Ruth isn't part of this ratio at all. So we're wanting to put Ruth and Sally together at the end in a ratio. So the only thing that you've got to work on there really is the 120. You can't start splitting the £500 up because you don't know what the ratio is between the 3 of them. All you know is the ratio between these 2, and you know that Jenny got £120. So if you go over here to Jenny, and you know that she got £120, you can just split the £120 up into the 3 money bags that she's got. So 120 divided by 3 is 40. So that's £40 in there, 40 in there, 40 in there to total up to the 120. What is in these money bags has to be the same as what's in these ones. So that's 40, 40, 40, 40. So you do 40 times 4 to get you £160. So that means that Sally has 160. So we can go and write her amount of money in over there then. After that, we're done with this bit. We were just using it purely just to get how much money Sally had. Now we know how much Sally and Jenny have, we can work out how much Ruth has, because we know the total's 500. So we can do 160 plus 120 is 280. If you need to, you can do a proper sum for that. I'm just doing it in my head. And then 500 take away 280 would be 220 for Ruth. So there's the 3 different amounts of money worked out. And we're wanting to write down the ratio of Ruth's share to Sally's share. So Ruth to Sally would be 220 to 160. So Ruth, Sally, 220, 160, and it says in its simplest form. So you can get rid of the noughts first of all, divide both of them by 10, and then 22 and 16 both divide by 2 to get you 11 and 8. You just sort of simplify at the end here exactly the way you would simplify a fraction, just keep dividing the numbers by the same number. So 11 to 8 is the simplified ratio there. Quite a complicated ratio question as far as they go, that one's quite tricky. Number 11. These shapes have the same perimeter. That means the distance around the outside totals up to be the same. The semicircle has a diameter of 20, they've got that marked on for you, and the rectangle has a length of 15, and they've got that marked on for you as well. And there's a width of x marked on there too. Use the width of the rectangle, work out the width of the rectangle, marked x on the diagram, and use pi equals 3.14 in your calculations. So sometimes in the non-calculator paper they tell you just to leave pi in your answer. This time they've given you a number to use. So you need to start with the semicircle because you can't work out the x here without working out the perimeter of the semicircle and then copying it over as the perimeter over there. So start with the semicircle. The perimeter is just the fancy name for the circumference, and the formula for the circumference is pi times the diameter. You need to learn that one. So instead of pi, use the number 3.14, and your diameter goes from one side of the circle to the other, so that's 20. So we're doing 3.14 times 20, but without a calculator. So if I was doing that, instead of doing long multiplying, I would split the 20 up into 10 and 2, and do 3.14 multiplied by 10, means you just move the point forward 1. So it turns the 3 roughly into 30 roughly, whenever you're timesing by 10, so 31.4, and then multiply that by 2. Again, I just did that in my head. You could do a proper calculation if you needed to, so 62.8. That number is the total distance around the outside of the circle. That's the total circumference. But this is a semicircle, so it's only half a circle, so that's why you would need to divide by 2 then, which takes you back to the 31.4. So that bit there is 31.4, the curved bit, but the perimeter is the total distance around the outside, so you would need to add on the 20 then to get you back to the start. So add on 20 means it totals up to 51.4. So that is 31.4 plus the 20, 51.4 for the perimeter. So that's what the perimeter of the rectangle is then, because they said that the shapes have the same perimeter. That was the very first thing in the sentence, or the first sentence in the question, sorry. So we know that the total around here is 51.4. If you've got 15 at the bottom, you've also got 15 at the top. So 15 and 15 is 30. So take that off the total perimeter of 51.4, leaves you with 21.4, and then split it in half because those two widths would be the same. So I did a proper sum there for that one. Mustn't have been smart enough to be able to do that one in my head. So divide that by 2 gets you 10.7 then. So 10.7 is your answer. Quite a bit of working out there for 4 marks, but there's nothing there that you shouldn't be able to do. Number 12, simplify fully. So for us to simplify this, we are wanting to cancel things out, but you can't just go and start stroking out x's and x squareds and everything. As soon as it's a simplify like this, a fraction where there's a top and bottom, you need to factorise. You need to get things in brackets that you can actually cancel out and stroke out. So factorising the top then, 5x squared minus 605. Just one bracket and take the 5 out in front, and then kind of work backwards. 5 times x squared would get you the 5x squared, and 5 times 121 would get you 605. So I didn't know what 605 divided by 5 was in my head, so there's the working out there to get where the 121 is from. Then after that, you are able to use dots, the difference of 2 squares in there. This is an awkward one that a lot of people don't seem to recognise. You just need to watch out for it. So watch out for squared numbers, squared letters, and them being taken away. So you put it into 2 brackets then. The 5 stays as it is. The x squared gets broken down into x, and the 121 gets broken down into 11 times 11. So you pretty much square root that and put them into the brackets. And remember, the whole key to the dots is putting one with a plus and one with a minus. So just a reminder for you there, dots means difference of 2 squares, because they're both squares, they're both squared terms, and difference means take away. So that's what we've got in the top then. And then we just need to factorise the bottom, and it's just a simple factorising. Just take out whatever you can in front of the bracket. So the 2 and the 22, 2 goes into both of those, and you've got x's here as well, so you can take out an x. So 2x times x gets you 2x squared, 2x times 11 would get you the 22x. Then you need to put everything back together again. So put the top on the top and put the bottom on the bottom, the factorised version of them, and then cancel things out. So you're able to stroke out the x plus 11 on the top and the x plus 11 on the bottom. So you're left with 5 and that bracket, and then just 2x on the bottom. So 4 marks there. You would get 2 marks for this one, 1 mark for this one, and then 1 mark for actually simplifying at the end and cancelling the stuff out. Number 13, solve the equation. So we're trying to work out what w is worth. So you need to move everything away from it. You leave it with the 6 until the end because it's stuck right beside it. And you would get rid of the add 5. So move the add 5 over and take it off. So 2 take away 5 will get you negative 3. And we've still got the w divided by 6 there. So you need to get rid of the divide by 6. So bring it over to the far side and times by 6. So negative 3 times by 6 gets you negative 18. So that's your answer. Just 2 marks for that one, so make sure you show you're working out. Part B, make x the subject of the formula means rearrange it so that the x is on its own. At the minute the y is on its own, it's the subject of the formula. It's the most important thing there. And we want to rearrange this so that the x is on its own. So it's a bit like solving an equation, but you don't actually get an answer. So you move the plus 7 over and take it off. So you've got y take away 7. And then you would still have the 3x on that side. And then you move the 3 over here and you divide by 3. So you're left with y take away 7 all divided by 3 equals x. And you need to make sure that you have the equals x there, otherwise you'll lose one of the marks. Part C. N is an integer, so that means that it's a whole number. List the values of n such that negative 16 is less than 4n, which is less than or equal to 12. So what this means at the minute is that 4n is worth all of the numbers between minus 16 and 12, but we're not interested in 4n, we just want n. So the first thing you need to do is break it down from being 4n down to n, and you do that just by dividing by 4. So you have to divide everything by 4. So the minus 16 divided by 4 gets you minus 4. The 4n goes down to n in the middle, and the 12 divided by 4 would get you the 3 at the end. Then all this is just n is all of the numbers between minus 4 and 3. So I've just written out all of the numbers, just like a number line, between minus 4 and 3. But then at the end, I've stroked out this minus 4, and that's because this arrow means that it can't be equal to 4. Whereas this one means that it can be equal to 3 because it's got the wee equal to sign underneath it. So this means can't be equal to 4, this means can be equal to 3. So I kept the 3 in but got rid of the 4. That's it for 2 marks. 1 mark for your method, 1 mark for your answer. Right, so number 14. So I'm not even going to read the top of that out, it just waffles on about everything that you can actually see in the picture anyway. I read it, but I'm just not reading it out to you. Right, the next bit then. The ship turns and travels directly back to C from, back from C to A. So we've got a ship that is going from C back here towards A, and you just want to work out the distance that it travels and then the bearing that it's on as well. And again, do you know what? I'm going to have to invest in a ruler. It's about the 3rd time I haven't had one. Hold on. Found one. Right. We are measuring the distance from A to C. So just get your ruler and measure the distance between it in centimetres. Brilliant. I've managed to pick up a ruler that's got a bit missing off the end of it. But anyway, 14. Yeah, 14 centimetres. And then this scale, dead easy scale, just 1 centimetre represents 1 kilometre. So 14 centimetres on this map is 14 kilometres in real life. So that's your first answer then, down here. The distance is just 14 kilometres because it's 14 centimetres on the map. The other thing that we want to work out is the bearing. And they're going from C back to A. So they went from A to B, then they went from B to C, and now they're going from C back to A. Bearings are angles that are measured from north, and you have to go clockwise round until you're ready to start travelling towards wherever you're going to. You have to go clockwise and you have to go from north. So this one is a big bearing because you're actually going past south, so you're going past the 180. So there's not really any point in you setting, normally you would set your protractor like that, like a capital D. But for this question, there's not really going to be much point in that because the capital D just takes you from north to south and they've gone further than that. So you would need to spin it round to get south plus the extra bit. So read the outside numbers. Always for bearings, you always read the outside numbers. So go from naught, round, and it's about 68 or thereabouts. It's about 2 wee dashes before the 70. So the angle that they would have to turn through would be 180 and then plus another 68 before they could start travelling towards A. Yes, it would be quicker going like anti-clockwise, but that's not how bearings work. You have to go clockwise. So you would need to add up the 180 plus the 68 then to get you a bearing of 248. So 2 marks there, 1 for the distance, 1 for the bearing. Number 15 is on standard form. And you're just wanting to divide. There's 2 different ways that you can do it. You can do just 3 divided by 6 gets you 0.5. Be careful there, it doesn't get you 2. 6 divided by 3 gets you 2, but 3 divided by 6 gets you a half or 0.5. So 3 divided by 6 first, and then do the tens divided by the tens. And whenever you're dividing like that, you take away the powers. We had a question like that earlier. So 7 take away 4 would get you the 3. So you've got 0.5 here for the number bit and 10 to the power of 3 for the next bit. So 0.5 times 10 to the power of 3, but it says to give your answer in standard form, and that's not in standard form because the 0.5 is too small. It needs to be 5. This has to be a number between 1 and 10. So you're making this bigger by 1 decimal place. So then to make up for that, you go to the power of the 10 and make it smaller by 1 place. So this goes up 1 and this goes down 1. So this goes up to 5 and that goes down to 2. So 5 times 10 squared would be your answer. The other way that you could do it is just write out the long version of the number. So 3 with 7 noughts and then 6 with 4 noughts. And then cancel the whole load of them out. 3,000 divided by 6 gets you 500, which is the same as 5 times 10 squared. Doesn't matter which way you do it, just whatever way you would prefer. 15b, work out this squared and give your answer in standard form. So squared means this bracket multiplied by the same bracket again. So you do 4 times 4 gets you 16. Then 10 cubed times 10 cubed. When you're multiplying, you add the power, so the 3 plus the 3 gets you 6. So you have 16 multiplied by 10 to the power of 6. 16 is too big. You need to make it smaller by 1 place. You need to make it down to 1.6. So because this is going down 1, the power of 6 goes up 1. It goes up to 7. So 1.6 times 10 to the power of 7. The other way to do it, 4 times 10 cubed is the same as 4,000. So 4,000 times 4,000 gets you 16 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 noughts, which in standard form then is the same as this. For these 2 questions, you might find this method here easier, but sometimes the numbers that they give you are really awkward and you're actually better off doing it this way, doing the individual numbers like the 3 and the 6 separately to the tens. This method here is generally the easiest one. Number 16, write down the value of 19 to the power of 0. One of the rules that you should have learnt about your powers is that anything to the power of 0 gets you 1. Doesn't matter what it is. 7 to the power of 0 gets you 1. 56 to the power of 0 gets you 1. If you don't believe me, type it into your calculator. Anything with a power of 0 will always get you 1. Part B, 2 to the power of minus 4. This is without your calculator, so just ignore the minus and work out 2 to the power of 4. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 gets you 4, times 2 gets you 8, times 2 gets you 16. And then one of your rules of powers is that negative power. So the negative power here means that your answer becomes 1 over the 16. So 1 over 16. The same as something like 5 squared gets you 25, but 5 to the power of minus 2 gets you 1 over 25. That's just one of your rules of indices. Number 17. In the diagram, BCD is a straight line and angle ACB is a right angle. And then they give you a wee bit more information here that BC is 4 centimetres. And then there's a pretty big indication here as to what you should actually be using, because they start talking about tan and sin. So that should automatically get you thinking about SOHCAHTOA. So work out the length of AD. So we are eventually wanting to work out that length. At the minute, you can't use that triangle. Yes, I've written in the 2.4, but that's what I found out further on in the question. At the start, that 2.4 wasn't there, so you couldn't use that triangle because you didn't know anything about it. So we needed to start the question by using that wee triangle, because we know at least that the bottom is 4. So I've drawn the wee triangle out down here. So I'm using triangle ABC. I've copied down the 4 and I've copied down the X, and what I'm wanting to find, although I've already got it written down there, what I was wanting to find was that side there. You generally, in questions like this, where the two triangles are stuck together, you generally want to start by finding out the length of the side that the two of them are joined by. So I'm wanting to find this height here. So SOHCAHTOA then, label your triangle. Opposite your right angle gets labelled with an H for hypotenuse. Opposite the angle involved in the question gets labelled with an O for opposite. And then the side that's left over gets labelled with an A for adjacent. It means beside that angle. So label them HOA, and then you circle the two that you're interested in really. So you need to circle this one because you know that it's 4 centimetres, and you need to circle this one because that's the one you're actually wanting to find. So the one that you don't use is the H. So we are using the one with the O and the A, which out of SOHCAHTOA would be the TOA. It's the one with the O and the A in it. So you draw out your TOA triangle. It goes down and then up and then down again. So TOA, like that. And we're looking to find the O. So you cover it up and do T times A. So O equals T times A, and the T means tan of the angle. So tan of X, and then multiply by 4 because that's how big A is. Tan X, normally there they would give you an angle like 37 or something like that, but because you don't have your calculator to type in tan whatever, they've just told you up here that tan X is 0.6. So you use that tan X is 0.6. It's kind of like what you would get on your calculator if you did have the angle, like tan 40 or whatever would get you the 0.6. So put 0.6 in there instead of tan X, and then multiply it by 4. So without your calculator, it's a bit like 60p multiplied by 4 would get you £2.40 if you want to think of it that way, if you're not so good with decimals. That's found us this height here. And now we can use the bigger triangle. So we've got that height. Yes, we don't have that angle, but they tell you something about it in the question. They tell you the sin of it, so that's a good indication that you're going to be using so then, out of your SOHCAHTOA. And then we should be able to find the length of that side. So I've copied the triangle out again down here. So there's the right angle. Opposite gets labelled with an H for hypotenuse. Opposite angle Y gets labelled with an O, and then the one left over gets labelled with an A. And we are looking to find this side here, so you definitely need to circle it. And then the other one that you circle is the 2.4 because it's the other one that you've got. So circle the one that you've got and circle the one that you want. Then we're wanting to find the, well, we already know that we're using SO because they gave us the sin in the question. So your SO triangle looks like that. you're wanting to find the h, so you cover it up and do O divided by S because you're going down the triangle. So over here, h equals O divided by S. O is 2.4. And then divided by S. S means sin of the angle, which is sin y. Again, you don't have a number to use there, but they've told you up here that it's worth a third. So you use a third. So 2.4 divided by a third. Dividing by a third is exactly the same as multiplying by 3, because dividing by third means you're splitting it up into thirds. So you would have 3 wee bits for each one. So just times it by 3. Easiest way to do it because you don't have a calculator. So 2.4 multiplied by 3, either do it in your head or there's the sum down there and you get 7.2. That bit there is probably the most awkward bit of the question actually, dividing by a third. If you didn't like that, you could use your rules for fractions, the whole leave it, change it, flip it thing. So whenever you're dividing, you leave the first bit, change that to times and then flip that over. And whenever you flip it over, it becomes 3 over 1, which is the same as just 3. So that's another way for you to see the 2.4 times 3 is exactly the same as 2.4 divided by a third. Number 18, surds. So show clearly that the mean and the median of those surds are equal. So the mean is where you add it all up and divide by how many you've got, and the median is where you put them in order and get the one in the middle. So first of all, the mean, adding them all up, you can't add those surds up as they are. They have to have the same number underneath the square root bit. So you need to simplify them first of all. So root 3 doesn't simplify, I've just kept it as a root 3. Root 12 simplifies by breaking it up into a square root that you know the answer to and a square root that you don't, like 4 and 3. Don't be using something like 2 and 6 because you don't know root 2 and you don't know root 6 either, so you're not going to be any better off. The whole point of the surds is that you have to pick one that you know and one that you don't know. So root 4 gets you 2 and then stick the root 3 after that then. Then root 48, there's a bit of a clue here. The fact that this root 3 doesn't simplify means that all of these other ones should end up with a root 3 in them, because that's the only way you're going to be able to add them together without a calculator, is if you've got the same number underneath the square root. A bit like algebra, you can only add them all together if they're x's or add them all together if they're y's. So the fact that this is a root 3 and this is a root 3 would mean that this should have a root 3 in it and this one. So that helps us out a bit with this. So root 48 would be 16 and 3. So you know the square root of 16 is 4 and then leave the root 3 as it is. So there's the one that you know, the one that you don't know. I wouldn't advise you to pick something like 4 and 12 here because the 12 goes down further and you end up having to simplify twice. So just go straight to having the one with the root 3 in it. And then root 75, split it up into 25 and 3. So 25 times 3 gets you 75. And you know the root of 25 is 5. And then just copy down the root 3. So that's the first wee bit done. You've done all your simplifying, which now means that you can actually find the mean and the median. So that would probably get you 2 or 3 marks there, just simplifying those. So getting your mean then, just add them up. So add up root 3 with 2 root 3 and 4 root 3 and 5 root 3. That'll get you 12 root 3. You just add the numbers in front of the roots, and a root 3 on its own is a 1 root 3. So you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 root 3, and you divide it by 4 because there's 4 numbers there. And that'll just do the 12 divided by 4, will break it down to 3, and the root 3 stays as it is. Again, it's a wee bit like algebra. If that was 1x plus 2x plus 4x plus 5x, you'd get 12x, and then 12x divided by 4 would get you 3x. So the root 3 stays as a root 3, the same way as the x would stay as an x. So that's your mean. The median then, put them in order and get the one in the middle. They already are in order, so I just wrote them out again. Then get the one in the middle, so those two would go, you've got 2 in the middle, so you go halfway in between them. So between 2 root 3 and 4 root 3 is 3 root 3. So they asked you to show that the mean and the median are equal. You have shown that. They both work out as 3 root 3. So that's you done. Number 19 says, given that x squared plus ax plus b, that means is equivalent to, it just means is the same as, but whenever they've used algebra, x minus 5 all squared plus a. So we're wanting to work out the values of A and B. What you do here, the fact of this it's called an identity, this equivalent sign, just means that what's on the left has to match up with what's on the right. But at the minute, they don't look anything alike at all. So to get them to look alike, over here you would need to get rid of the bracket. So I've done that first here by using FOIL. So first outside, inside last. So multiply that with that. X with x gets you x squared. Then multiply x with 5, or negative 5, will get you negative 5x. So the first thing in each bracket, then the two terms on the outside, then the two terms on the inside, then the two terms that are last in the bracket. So the next one is multiplying those two together, which gets you another negative 5x. And then at the end you've got a negative 5 multiplied by a negative 5. Be careful here, a negative multiplied by a negative gets you a positive, and then 25. And then you're able to simplify this bit here in the middle. So minus 5x, take away another 5x, will bring you right the way down to minus 10x. So FOIL then has got us x squared, then minus 10x plus 25. But that's just that wee bit there. That's just the bracket that we've got rid of. There's still the plus a on the end here. So that's what I've got written down over here. So this bit was FOIL, and then this was the wee plus a stuck in the end. And then I've written down the first side first. So the x squared, ax and b. And then this one here is from that second side. What you need to do now is just compare them because they're equal or equivalent to each other. So the x squareds already match up. So that's them sorted, nothing to do there. Whenever you come to compare the x, you need to look to see what they've got in front of them, because obviously the x match with the x. So you just need to match up the a with the minus 10. So that means a is worth negative 10. So there's one of your answers, negative 10. Then go to the bit at the end. They don't have x's, they don't have x squareds or anything like that. So this is all just numbery bits, and you just have to put them equal to each other. So b must match up with 25 plus a. So 25, and then a is minus 10. So it'll actually be 25 take away 10. It's a funny looking b there, I'll fix that. So 25 plus minus 10 is the same as just 25 take away 10, which will get you down to 15 for b. So a is equal to negative 10 and b is equal to 15. Alright, questions like this, the fancy name for them is completing the square. You don't even need to know the fancy name for it. Just look out for that wee equivalent sign, expand the brackets, and then put everything equal to each other. So match up the x squareds with the x squareds, the x's with the x's, and the numbers with the numbers. And then just do some solving. Oh, I thought there was another question, and there's not. Brilliant. Done.